Central Minnesota Sports Hub. It's the Morning Sports Desk, presented by Wadena's Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade. Available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and streaming on YouTube.
Powered by Wadena's Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade. This is the Morning Sports Desk. I'm CJ Baumgartner, Corey Tackman over there. In the middle is our guy Zeke. We got our Peak with Zeke once a week, and Feisty Zeke will be making an appearance later on. He is
so angry today about a number of things.
So we got Feisty Zeke coming up. We are going to talk some high school sports and recap some games from last night and history being made for Crosby-Ironton and across Minnesota State High School League girls basketball, and Jordan Addison getting his charges dropped, but does that necessarily get him out of the woods with the Vikings? We're going to talk about all that and more on today's show. Let's first dive in, fellas, with a basketball game that Zeke was at last night in Hawley, Heart of Lakes, and Section 8AA conference and section matchups last night. Hawley, Staples-Motley. Zeke, give us the recap. What did you see?
Yeah, talking to head coach Zach Quell before the game, he said Hawley lives and dies by the three. We have to defend it. And for the first half, they had a lot of trouble containing the three. Hadley, I think, had 4 threes, made threes in the first half. I think he finished with 7, keeping him in the game. But ultimately, Hawley had no answer for Josiah Burton down low. I mean, it was Hackajoe for the second half. He was 6 of 7 from the free throw line, finished with the team high 25. They were just feeding him and feeding him and feeding him. Charles Steer was the unlucky nugget who had to follow Burton around last night, and he got 4 quick fouls. Then he left, and then there was really no answer. So 25 for Burton last night. Eli Rutten knocked down some big threes. He had 24. Cardinals improved to 8-4, I think 5-1 in the section now. And it's kind of a logjam at the top. It's anybody's section. I think QRF wise, I think Thief River Falls has 63. And then there's 5 teams that are between 59 and 58.5. And it's all right there. And Cardinals getting a big win at the top of the section last night to kind of try and make a case for that top overall seed, if not a top 3 seed come tournament time next month.
Yeah, we were talking about it yesterday, Corey, and those section standings and where things sit, and Staples-Motley certainly making themselves a claim, and then, of course, getting a win in the Heart of Lakes play as well to kind of stay in that hunt. So a lot of crossover there between that conference and that section and things taking place there. So really fascinating to see how it breaks down. I know, Zeke, that it didn't quite happen yet, but Staples-Motley Cardinal fans should be on notice because there was a Cardinal scorer who was close to hitting a big milestone.
Yeah, I think coming into the game last night, Avondre Brandt was 32 points away from 1,000 career, and he had 5 points in the first half, and then spent the rest of the game feeding Burton under the basket. I mean, he was doing everything he could to take advantage of that mismatch. So that's one thing we'll have to watch. I know specifically in the game against Park Rapids again this Friday, and then a long homestand for the Cardinals, and good chance that Avondre hits the century mark at the Nest in the next couple of weeks.
Huge thing to watch out for. And by the way, just taking a look, again, what happens with things like that. But we do have some Staples-Motley Cardinal games on our broadcast schedule. So to find the full broadcast schedule, all you got to do is go to WDCRadio.com or follow Sports Cow on Facebook. So huge win for the Cardinals there. And we turn things over now to a game last night from the Nest, Staples-Motley versus Wadena Deer Creek in girls basketball. And talking with both coaches pregame, talking with Jordan Cressup, head coach of Wadena Deer Creek girls basketball, he was feeling really good about how the team was playing, coming off of a huge section win against East Grand Forks, 46-43. Said made some key threes, got some free throws when we needed to, and overall displayed the defense that they expect to play. And really just kind of a good stabilizing win and able to just kind of get their season back on the track that they feel like they can get to. And they won 2 in a row coming into this game against Staples-Motley. They know that there's some challenges in stopping some of the athletes that the Cardinals had. And the Cardinals athletes gave them some issues here and there throughout the game. But overall, Wadena Deer Creek started the game on a 9-0 run and just didn't look back from there. Every once in a while, Staples-Motley would get it to within 7. One time got it to within 5. But really from the onset, Wadena Deer Creek took an early lead and they were able to play their style of basketball. Now, kind of towards the end of the first half and all the way, a lot of the way through the second half, Wadena Deer Creek did apply some pressure and apply some press, and that led to a lot of turnovers from Staples-Motley that gave them those extra possessions. Thought in the rebounding game, Jada Dykov had herself a nice game. She finished with 13 points, had a couple threes, a lot of rebounding effort on the boards for her, and so able just to take advantage of that to get the victory. But overall, I think for Staples-Motley, it's two teams kind of on different trajectories, right? We talk about this all the time. Wadena Deer Creek is very veteran heavy. They have a lot of girls who played a lot of basketball and a lot together, and they're trying to get to where they want to be, which is at a different level than where Staples-Motley is at right now. They're 3-12 on the campaign following the loss. Wadena Deer Creek improves to 9-4. And talking with Coach Cy Beslin before this one, they have 4 sophomores and 1 senior in their starting lineup, and I think a junior, sophomore come off the bench. So they're a very young team, but he said that there's things there. He said, we've seen growth. And then he paused to say, it's not always linear, but we are seeing growth. We're seeing some things happen. He kind of talked to me before the game, and I know you've talked with him a little bit, Corey, earlier in the season, but it's finding the little things, right? The speed of the game, the basketball IQ. There's just a couple things where you don't necessarily get there until you've done it, and you have to do it for a little bit for it to become second nature. He said there's a lot of thinking and not a lot of reacting in that sense, or it's not a lot of natural stuff. It's a lot of like, okay, I got to do this, or what happens when they do that, instead of just knowing what to do at a given time. And they're working towards that. They're building towards that. And you could see that when Wadena Deer Creek would apply the press, and then all of a sudden they would turn the ball over, have some issues there, trying to find their way offensively and things like that. But again, you could see, I could see the vision with Staples-Motley. They feel like, hey, we got a young crew. Let's build them up together. They'll learn the speed of the varsity game, and in the next year or two, we'll see those steps. For Wadena Deer Creek, they hummed along. They got the win that they needed, and things move along. Larson for Staples-Motley was the leading scorer for the Cardinals. She finished with, I believe, somewhere around 13 points, and then Luna as well finished with 9. Those were the 2 leading scorers for Staples-Motley. For the Cardinals, their next matchup will be a Heart of Lakes Conference game against Park Rapids area in Park Rapids on Friday night. And for Wadena Deer Creek, they go back home to host Verndale tomorrow. So that's where things sit for both teams. As we look in the high school sports landscape, this is something we talked about yesterday and something that needs reiterating because it happened. Tori Oehrlein making history. She needed 33 points to get the victory. And I can't remember who they played. Was it Pine City, East Central?
Mille
Lacs, yeah. And playing Mille Lacs, and was able to get those points in I think 124-37 win. It was Crosby-Ironton's impressive. And Tori Oehrlein, obviously the headliner in that. And she makes girls basketball history. Tori Oehrlein is the all-time leading scorer in Minnesota State High School League girls basketball. 5,000 plus career points, broke that last week, and then now gets the all-time record. And the craziest part about this is we don't even know if she'll finish the season as the all-time leading scorer. It's crazy.
She's a pretty special player, and will go down in our lives as one of the best, if not the best, high school basketball player we'll ever get to see. We got a nice update. Co-worker from the Brainerd stations, JD, sent a nice recap of the game for Tori. By the way, she, maybe you said this, CJ, she needed 33. She scored 57. She got her 33 already in the first half with 4 minutes remaining. Just kind of unbelievable stuff. And then on top of it, the person that she passed, do you know who that was?
Oh, I can't remember.
Bram's Rebecca Dahlman.
I do.
Oh, sorry.
She was there last night.
She was there.
No,
Rebecca was there to help pass the torch. Pretty amazing.
Pretty cool. It was cool that they could arrange for her to be there, and she would take the time to do that, because obviously it's high school sports. There's a lot going on. She has her own life to live. And sometimes with those records, you see it more in the pro sports, but people get very defensive over their spots in history. But it's really cool to see somebody like Rebecca look at that and be like, no, this is awesome that she has a chance to do this, and I want to be there to congratulate her personally when it happens. That's a really cool moment.
Yep.
Just waiting for you guys to add anything on.
Indeed.
We're done. I think that means we're done. All right, congratulations to Tori. Congrats there. So, all right. We're going to talk a little more about Zeke's feistiness. We also have Jordan Addison rumors, or should the rumors be circulating? Maybe is the better way to put it. Probably. We'll talk about that and more. But Corey, we got to talk about somewhere where the only things we say are good things, and that's the Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade in Wadena.
Over halfway through the month of January, which means if you haven't had the opportunity yet to enjoy the pizza of the month, you got to enjoy the pizza of the month. A large pepperoni pizza from the Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade in Wadena, just $12. $12 all month long. The rest of the month, you got 10 days left to enjoy it. The pizza of the month classic. Are you kidding me? A large pepperoni pizza for just $12. Stop in, enjoy. When it's this cold, you don't want to do anything. When it's going to be this cold, you don't want to do anything, and sometimes that includes cooking. So let Pizza Ranch do the cooking for you with their pizza of the month. Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade in beautiful downtown Wadena.
All right, guys. So let's first talk about Jordan Addison, who had some trouble last week. I was down in Florida. Apparently, I was tasked with keeping him out of trouble. I failed. I'm sorry. In my defense, I was in Central Florida. He was in Tampa, something like that. So he wasn't anywhere close. He was at a casino in the area and basically was there super late, and they asked him to leave, and he would not. And he was arrested, booked, mugshot, all that great stuff. And then his agent a couple days later put out a post that said, we're going to look into false arrest we're going to look into false arrest. We're going to try and get this dropped. And you kind of look at that right away and go, oh, that's agent speak. He's saying that because he has to. Like, they're going to explore all options. And then, like, within a week, you know what? We'll drop the charges. Like, the state is not going to pursue charges. Like, it's trespass. He stayed too late at a casino. And in casino terms, I'm sure that happens a lot more than we see in the headlines where that happens. But basically, he's probably going to escape. I mean, he escaped legal issues, which means he's probably going to escape any issues from the NFL itself. But guys, they were like 2 weeks into the offseason, and this happened. I don't know, man. It just kind of feels like that's just one more notch in the belt for Jordan Addison's issues. And I've personally have been pretty like, nah, he's kind of a weirdo. Like, he's done some things that I don't, he's done some bad things, but overall, like, really, let's be honest, he's a good enough football player. And there are just some things that happens where you're like, okay, other wide receivers have issues. Like, you're not going to be perfect. If they can deal with it, if it's not that bad, they can move on. But this is just another one. It's like, okay, man, every offseason, there's literally something Jordan Addison has an issue with. And I'm done. Like, if they keep him, it's whatever, but I am under no obligation to pretend like the Vikings under no circumstances should trade this guy, and I wouldn't blame the organization if they're done.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I mean, there's a lot of talented guys in the NFL, and there's a lot of guys that have issues, and it's just how long is ownership willing to be patient with those issues, and who is willing to take the gamble and be like, yeah, I can change the guy who's been arrested like 3, 4, 5 times since he's come into the NFL. Somebody will take a flyer on Addison. They'll get a 5th, 6th round pick for him if they want to, and then bring in Jalen Naylor as your wide receiver 2, or go to the draft, or find a free agent. I know money is tight for the Vikings right now. I think they're 29 over the cap, so they've got some moves to make, and probably with the cap situation, not going to sign Addison to a long-term deal just based on money and off-field issues. And you're already paying your wide receiver 1 the most money for a non-quarterback offensive player, I think, in the history of the game, or something crazy like that with Justin Jefferson. So Addison has his moments. He's had some big plays, but at some point, the rubber hits the road off-season wise, and he missed 3 games to start the year because of some off-season stuff, and now he starts this off-season like this. I'm over him.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point about the games, because the NFL has proven, franchises have proven, the league has proven, if you can play football and help your team win games, you are going to be given an opportunity, which means Jordan Addison is going to be given an opportunity. But 2 years in a row, he's missed games because of his offs. Like, we've not had any Jordan Addison issues in season. They've all been off season, but most of the year is off season. So it's going to be which organization is going to be able to reel this guy in from the months of January to July, effectively, right? That's where these problems are lying. And if you're going to miss games and not help your team win, then you become considerably less enticing for everybody. And sure, were these charges dropped? Yes, of course they were. But this is now a long track record of not being able to make real positive decisions.
Right.
It's that simple. He's not making good decisions. And is this going to be the thing? Is this going to be rock bottom, the thing that teaches him his lesson? I don't know how it could be, because a DUI wasn't the rock bottom. Like
a DUI a week after his new teammate was killed by a drunk driver, by the way.
A late night stay at a casino where the charges dropped is, even though not illegal, not a good decision. This is not going to be the thing that puts him over the edge of positive decisions. I thought it after the DUI. So I love Addison. He's such a nice football player. We can't be doing this.
Well, there's even a quote by Kwesi Adofo-Mensah at the year-end press conference, because of course this happened right around the same time that they were going to speak to the media. And basically, to paraphrase what Kwesi Adofo-Mensah said, he used the analogy of like 99% of the time we deal with him, it's great. That 1% though, like,
yeah,
in the building, they have no complaints of him. He's a good worker. He does all the stuff. Like, he does whatever. Like, he does his job. People like him. It's not like he's, a locker room cancer. I think he's good in the building, outside of, by the way, when they were in London and he got suspended for the first quarter because he just went to quote unquote find himself. He's just generally speaking, he's a different cat, as most wide receivers are. But like, I just think that he's given the Vikings no reason to believe he's going to change his action. And remember, his rookie year, he was driving 120 miles an hour on I-94 in St. Paul.
Well, his dog was choking or something, wasn't it? Is that what it was?
Yeah, that's what he's allegedly.
Yeah, his dog was sick.
And then has the DUI the next year. And the DUI issues linger past 2024, legally speaking. And then the 2025 season, he suffers that. But then you have this offseason where he serves the suspension, but then in season has to get suspended for a quarter because he just ditched a team meeting while in London. And then now you have this. The offseason just started. There is still plenty of opportunity for him to do something again. Every offseason, that's not hyperbole, it's every offseason he's been a Minnesota Viking. They've had to deal with this. And look, driving super fast is not good and it's dangerous, but like, you could play that off as a 20-year-old kid doing something dumb and reckless. But now we're getting to the point where it's just getting a little tough to deal with at this point. And I think Zeke brought up a good point. People are like, oh, cool, the Vikings can just trade him. Addison's a good wide receiver. They'll get like a 2nd-round pick for him, and life goes on. All the NFL teams can read the news and see ESPN. They know the exact same issues Jordan Addison has, and I think there are plenty of teams that will be willing to take a chance on Jordan Addison, the football player, but not at the price of a very high draft pick, which again, and this gets back to, again, a discussion that I think it circles into, because I think we're all in agreement on Jordan Addison, where Kwesi Adofo-Mensah has to punt on Jordan Addison and flip him for like a 5th-round pick. That's a 1st-round pick you used. And that was one of the notches of, the Kwesi can't draft community. It was, but he did draft Jordan Addison, who's a really great football player. But if he's not great off the field, again, it's not necessarily a Kwesi can't draft, but it's just one of the key draft picks you needed to pan out to build your roster with young players. Now, all of a sudden, you can't have on your roster because you can't trust him. So it just, the Vikings are already a team. This is a very big prove it off season and prove it year for the Vikings. And it'll just be interesting if they, I don't know what happens. But the other thing is the Vikings have been they've been pretty loose with Jordan Addison. Like Kevin O'Connell has not had super strong words about him. I'm not going to say that they've let him go unpunished. That's not true. But basically there has not been and Kevin O'Connell's different than Mike Zimmer, obviously, but there has not been this big kind of call out to Addison, at least externally. And we really haven't seen much internally. So it just depends when will be the straw that breaks the camel's back. And it might be this one and it might not be.
We'll know when he gets traded or
doesn't. The one that happens in February.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, trades can't happen anyway.
We're halfway through January and it's already an issue.
Yeah, exactly. There's still plenty of trade him now before get a trade in principle agreed to before he does something again. But yeah, when he's away from the facility and he's away from his teammates, bad things.
I just want to say though, if I can, like, I don't mind like a team and this coach and like, I don't mind that nobody's called him out. Like, I'm not like it seems obvious. I don't know if you know this. This guy can't stay out of trouble. Like the one rock solid, constant, foundational thing that he seems to have in his life is his work and is his job. And like, I think the consistency of that has been really important for him. And I think it's probably important for him that place, everything else is coming down on him. If that comes down on him too, might be a goner. So like, I don't mind organizationally that they let the chips fall as they may. And just because we're not hearing it publicly doesn't mean it's not happened behind the scenes. I would guarantee conversations are happening behind the scenes. That's just how it works. So I don't mind that there's not been a public thing. I think this guy probably has one rock solid constant in his life, and that's his work. And it needs to remain that way to maybe keep his head. That might be the one thing that's keeping his head above water in this whole situation.
Yeah, exactly. All right. That pretty much wraps up this discussion on Jordan Addison. We'll see what happens with the Minnesota Vikings as that gets going. One more thing to wrap up the show today. We want Feisty Zeke. Zeke, why are you so feisty today?
Because yesterday the Baseball Hall of Fame announced its 2026 inductees, and I hated it. I hated it. To start my feisty rant here, I love baseball and I love baseball history. Last night, I watched a 2-hour documentary on YouTube about the relocation era of the 1950s, and I loved every minute of it. I just finished writing a book about the history of baseball from 1884 to 1960. I love the history of baseball, and the Hall of Fame is ruining it. I can say that because I'm literally a card-carrying member of the Hall of Fame. I pay the annual dues. I'm giving back to baseball history. If I go to Cooperstown, I can go to the museum for free. That's what it does. I get a magazine every 3 months. Yesterday, I don't know what's happening with the Baseball Hall of Fame. The bar used to be here. I'm going to read the Hall of Fame inductees from like 2014 to 2018, right? And these are just surefire Hall of Famers. Glavine, Maddox, Thomas, Biggio, Randy Johnson, Smoltz, Pedro, Piazza, Griffey, Pudge. Just the bar is here. And then 2019, and the writers let Harold Baines into the Hall of Fame. And the bar goes from here to here, where it's the Hall of Fame to now it's the Hall of really great. And then you see Mike Mussina and Lee Smith and Edgar Martinez and Roy Halladay and Ted Simmons and Scott Rowland and Fred McGriff and those guys get in the Hall of Fame, and the bar just keeps getting lower and lower and lower. And now yesterday we get Carlos Beltran and we get Andrew Jones, who are great players in their own rights. Look at their numbers. They did things that nobody else in the history of baseball has done. Just amazing defensive center fielders. But are they Hall of Fame worthy? I don't. They're Hall of really great. And the pool just becomes more and more diluted and more diluted. And everything that happened pre-2019 or pre-2019 just seems ludicrous. I've got two quick examples before I get up my soapbox. Number one, compare Andrew Jones' numbers to Jim Edmonds' numbers. Jim Edmonds' numbers, mostly across the board, are comparable or better to Andrew Jones. Jim Edmonds fell off the ballot in the first round because he didn't get the 5%. He's done. You can add Kenny Lofton to that group as well. Pitching wise, yesterday, Felix Hernandez got almost 50% of the vote on his ballot. Compare Felix Hernandez's numbers to Johan Santana's numbers. Santana didn't have the longevity. Felix did, but still a lot of Johan's numbers a lot better than King Felix. Johan fell off the ballot in the first round. Only 2.4% of people voted for Johan in the first round. And that, I believe, was pre-2019 when Harold Baines got in the Hall of Fame and the bar went from here to there. And I hate it so much.
Now, look, if the bar is lower, does that mean Tori Hunter gets in?
He's still getting 8 to 10% every ballot. And Andrew Jones, I think his first ballot, he became, I think his first ballot, he had right around 10%. He became the stat I saw was he became the player with the lowest first ballot percentage to eventually make the Hall of Fame yesterday. Like he just scraped by that 10% and eventually worked his way up and up and up and up and up. And that's what Felix Hernandez is doing. That's what a guy like Andy Pettitte, who's still on the ballot, he got about 46 to 49% yesterday. You look at Chase Utley, he was right around 60% or so. And those are the next guys coming up. Is Chase Utley a Hall of Famer? I don't think so. Is Andy Pettitte a Hall of Famer? Him and his 3.9 ERA? I don't think so. And you look at 2028, and that's when the next Veterans Committee, Golden Era Committee votes. And that's when they can vote for the guys who were just pulled off the commissioner's exempt list, all the 1919 Black Sox. So Shoeless Joe Jackson can get in the Hall of Fame in 2028. Pete Rose can get in the Hall of Fame in 2028. They changed the rule this summer. Once you die, you come off that list, and then you're up for election on a special ballot. So I don't know. I'm frustrated with the whole thing. I mean, I've said it numerous times on this podcast. Cooperstown, New York is my Disney World, and I love it, and I'm passionate about it. But this is like Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind getting shut down permanently because it ruins everything for everybody.
All right, I have a couple of follow-ups here. So go with me on this one. First of all, just to jump on your bandwagon, when you think about Jones and you think about Beltran, two players who I think we all liked and enjoyed watching play as we grew up. But if you just on a gut level instinct, if you compare them to other great center fielders, Willie Mays and Ken Griffey Jr., Kirby Puckett, like, does it feel like those guys made the impact? Like, just emotionally, they don't feel like they were as impactful as those guys were. So that's just to pile on here a little bit. But I have two follow-up questions. The first one is, we are still feeling the effects and reeling from the steroid era of baseball. And these two guys, while not maybe square in the middle of the steroid era, are the cream that have risen to the top of all these other guys. Like Pettitte's not going to make it because he's got steroid implications to his name. Do Beltran and Jones, do they make it because of what they did and how it felt immediately following some of the steroid stuff in baseball? Like, does that just make what they did feel a little better?
I think so. I mean, and you can attribute it to just timing. It was a weak class this year, which means they got in. 2021, there was nobody elected because you can do that. There are years where there's nobody elected. into the Hall of Fame. And, Beltran had to wait because of the hand that he had in the Houston Astros scandal of 2017. He was on that World Series winning team, and it cost him a manager spot with the Mets, but apparently they'll overlook it to put him in the Hall of Fame. Andrew Jones, the best defensive center fielder of that generation, more than 400 home runs. I'm not knocking Andrew Jones's numbers, but you compare him to the other center fielders that are in the Hall of Fame. You look at the last handful of years, his Atlanta years were amazing. And then he went to the Dodgers, and he went to the White Sox, and he went to the Yankees, and kind of bounced around, and he's posting negative WAR, and he's posting 1.0 WAR and things like that, and didn't have that impact. But people don't remember that. They remember the Braves years, which the stat I saw, there's the same number of 1997 Atlanta Braves in the Hall of Fame now as there are 1927 Yankees, which is just attribute that pitching staff to Smoltz, Glavine, Maddox, Chipper, Andrew, and I'm trying to think I think there's 6. I'm trying to think who the 6th. Oh, Bobby Cox, the manager, is in there too. So there's 6.
Okay, so my next follow up then to this is. And I'll share just a little bit of a diatribe here myself. Like, I'm a big believer in sports that it's really hard, nearly impossible, and I don't even think sometimes it should be tried to compare across eras, right? We've got a general manager in here who loves to pick fights about Michael Jordan or LeBron James, and I like to oblige those arguments and have those arguments. But what I really think in basketball is there's not a greatest player ever. There's distinct eras, and there are the best players from those eras. LeBron James of his era, Michael Jordan of his era, Larry and Magic, Kareem, Wilt and however you want to do this. So to move this into baseball, I think if you were to look at straight up numbers for, let's say, Bert Blyleven, straight up numbers, Bert Blyleven is not a Hall of Famer, but he was one of the premier pitchers of his era in the game of baseball. When you remove the eras and you just talk about Andrew Jones and Carlos Beltran in their era, were they not 2 of the premier players in the league? And is that qualifying enough?
They were, and it should be. But baseball fans are traditionalists, and we always have a stick up our butt. And we hate change, and we look at who they're there with. And I love the plaque room, the plaque gallery in Cooperstown. The names in there are just the Willie Mays and the Hank Aaron and the Babe Ruth and the Walter Johnson and all these guys. And you're walking down and you're seeing Harmon Killebrew and you're seeing Bob Feller. And then you see Jim Rice and you see, I don't know. It's yeah. And so it's awesome. They do have it separated by well, not really by era, by when you were voted into the Hall. So you have the 1980s guys, which is Harmon was in that class. Carew was 91. So they're all kind of together. But then you have the late bloomers. You've got the Jack Morris, Alan Trammell's plaques next to Chipper Jones and Vlad Guerrero. You've got Tony Oliva and Jim Cott next to David Ortiz, where it's totally different eras, but it's just when they happen to be elected in the Hall of Fame. I think if they split them up a little bit more in that plaque gallery and separated the classes, I think maybe that would help. But I don't know. It's just something they've always done. They're not going to change that at this point.
I think it's going to be interesting too, because the biggest era shift we've seen in baseball, out in our lives anyway, outside of the steroid era, we're in the biggest era shift in the game of baseball right now. So comparing numbers side to side don't always make a real amount of sense. Like, we're talking about 100%. Cody Bellinger being a Hall of Fame one day, or for example, I don't know if he is, but guys like Freddie Freeman's gonna be a Hall of Famer. And if you compare his what made Frank Thomas a Hall of Famer as a first baseman compared to Freddie Freeman, a Hall of Famer, as a first baseman, their numbers are not going to look even close to the same. Probably. I don't know. I don't have those numbers memorized. But don't you think like there's going to have to be a real reckoning, as if there already hasn't been, but a real reckoning in the game of baseball of what's important, what is important? Because, I mean, Matthew Stafford, and when you look at the NFL, like he's got some unbelievable numbers, some numbers that the league had never seen before, but mostly not a ton of success. And he was this like, what is he? The numbers for quarterbacks have changed so drastically that your bar, your threshold has to move. It's going to be fascinating now because Joe Mauer was one of those transition guys. We're getting to these players now. We're like, is Freddie Freeman a Hall of Famer? Is Cody Bellinger a Hall of Famer? Is fill in the blank a Hall of Famer? Because their numbers are not going to look similar to these guys that we grew up like idolizing or hearing lore of, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like I said, the bar is lowered. Will we ever see another 300 game winner in the MLB? Probably not. I think the closest is Verlander, who had a strong second half with the Giants. He's been rumored to wanting to sign with Baltimore to keep that going, but we're never going to see that again.
Yeah,
exactly. He is 3,000 hits. I forget who the closest guy. Maybe Freddie Freeman, maybe the closest to 3,000 hits, and we're not going to have one. Altuve maybe getting up there as well, but I don't want him in the Hall of Fame because of obvious reasons too. But look at next year's ballot. Buster Posey is on there. If Mauer's a first ballot Hall of Famer, so is Buster Posey, and then the rest of the list. I mean, if everyone else falls off after the first ballot, the John Lesters, the Brett Gardners, the Ryan Zimmermans, Kyle Seager, Irvin Santana, Todd Frazier, J.A. Happ, Twins legend. There's, not great, which means I don't know. But if we're going by the best of their era, was John Lester one of the best pitchers of our era? Was
Absolutely.
Jordan Zimmerman one of the best first basemen of our era? Pablo Sandoval, Jay Bruce, Joaquim Soria.
Yeah.
It's weird, man. It's weird.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's really tough.
I think it's partially just getting old and seeing these guys' names. And I went and watched, Edison Volquez, and I watched Matt Wieters and Rick Porcello, and now they're on the Hall of Fame ballot. I don't know. I feel old. Maybe that's what it's just getting old and grumpy. That's why I'm so feisty today.
It's
and the Wild
Zeke,
lost.
It's grumpy Zeke, I guess.
It's grumpy. Yeah, grumpy. Just old.
By the way,
Wolves and the Wild and the Gophers didn't help my mood either.
By the way, to wrap up today's conversation, then we'll be done for the day. Closest active players to 3,000 hits, Freddie Freeman has 2,267. So still got a little bit to go, but
ways to go.
He's got a ways to go. Jose Altuve has 2,232 hits, and Andrew McCutchen has 2,152 hits. And McCutchen's not good.
He's still nine. I mean, all of those guys are 200 hit seasons away.
Yeah.
That is not happening. They're not going to get – how close is Trout? Ohtani was old by the time he came over here. Like,
Trout's too hurt.
So was Ichiro. Ichiro was 27, 28.
I suppose it depends on if he count professional hits or –
But Ichiro was a first ballot Hall of Famer who missed unanimous by like one vote.
Just,
That's the different – we're talking Ichiro to Andrew Jones to Carlos Beltran. Yeah, there's just
it's happening.
I blame Harold Baines. This is Harold Baines' fault.
It can all be traced back to him.
It's happening across all sports though, too. Who was the Ben Wallace with the Detroit Pistons? Like,
yeah,
he had a really fun 4 years.
Deion Sanders made a whole point in the NFL. He's whined about the NFL is too big of a haul. So it's just so it goes. It's kind of the nature of the beast.
Yeah. Johan Santana had a really 4 fun years too, and he's not in the Hall of Fame. But I'm not bitter about that.
I think I'm more bitter at Bartolo Colon, who used steroids and got a Cy Young when Santana should have got back-to-back Cy Youngs, which would have made it really hard to leave him out of the Hall. So
05 was his best season.
So Big Sexy, you are on my list.
I still love him though.
We'll always have 2017, like the 2 months. The 2 months of 2017. All right.
He fell off the ballot in the first round too, by the way. So
yeah.
Morning.
He's he's Inner Circle Meme Hall of Fame. We'll go with that. Morning Sports Desk, powered by Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade in Wadena. See ya.
Powered by Wadena's Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade. Follow the Morning Sports Desk on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And watch every show on YouTube.